The court is now back in session. The floor is now given to Ian Sari's defense. To pose question to the witness, Rajam Tan, you may proceed.
Good afternoon, Mr. President. Good afternoon, Your Honors, and good afternoon to everyone in and around the courtroom, and good afternoon, witness. Unless there are any objections, I will refer to you as Chiem. Sir, first, I want to make sure that we clear up a couple of matters. One, you gave two statements to the Office of the Co-Investigative Judges, one on 5 December 2007, and the second one on 21st September 2008. Is that right?
I am not sure regarding the interview in 2005. I am certain of the one I did in 2007.
All right, maybe there's a mistranslation. One is 2007, and the second one is 2008.
Yes, I recall the two statements I made respectively in 2007 and 2008.
And at the conclusion of giving those statements, you were read out a summary, and you signed them, or you put your thumbprint to it. Is that correct?
Yes, I provided my thumbprint on the statement which is true and correct.
And of course, before answering the questions that were being posed to you, you took an oath.
Bye.
Yes, I did.
Now, previously you were shown a third document, a third statement, dated December 19, 2010 by DC Cam, and I'm referring to Your Honors E190.1.406. And that's what I want to briefly talk about. Do you recall giving that interview, sir?
Response. Regarding the interview with the Documentation Center of Cambodia, I don't seem to recall that or the statement itself. If I knew that was the records they produced, then I would not have made them. I did not know how they came up with this interview. I did not hear any introduction of searching for the truth at all when they came to see me.
Okay, perhaps if we could provide you with a copy of that document, or you may still have it in front of you, because I want to first clarify a couple of points. Are you suggesting, sir, that the interview never took place?
Yes.
So, if I understand you correctly, and you're telling the trial chamber that you were never interviewed by Long Danny back on December 19th, 2010, an interview that took place in Dong Village, Malay Commune, Malay District, Banten-Aceh Province. That is your testimony under oath.
I made 2 interviews and I took an oath twice. And besides that, no, I did not take any oath.
That wasn't my question. Did you give an interview to Long Denny from the Documentation Center of Cambodia? It's a yes, it's a no, it's I don't remember. Which of the 3?
As I just said, regarding searching for the truth organization, I did not take any interview with them, or to my best recollection, I cannot recall it.
All right. Let me point out to, if we can look at one page, and this would be Khmer Air number 00660835, English 006600629, and French 00754259. If you could look at that document, that page on this particular document. Once you find it, I'll pose a question. You were asked during this interview who appointed you or who ordered you to go to the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. There's a question by Danny. Did Ieng Sary ask you to go with him, or did you make a request yourself? Answer, Chiam. No. We had no authority to make any requests. I was simply assigned by Pol Pot to go with Ieng Sary. My work was to provide hospitality to the guests and to look after the house building of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. Somehow, it was hard work. Did you find that passage, sir?
Response. What I read from here is that I still do not know the person by the name Danny. I don't know how this thing could come up like that.
All right. I'm going to pose some simple questions, and I would appreciate some simple answers. Assuming that this document is an authentic document and DC Cam did not fabricate an interview with you, as you are suggesting here today, on December 19th, 2010. So let's make that assumption. Do you see on this particular page that I've shown you, where you say that Pol Pot assigned you to go with Ieng Sary to the Ministry of Foreign Affairs? Do you see that, sir?
Response: Yes, I do. I saw this statement.
Now, is it your testimony here today under oath that you never made this statement to the person who was interviewing you? That is, that it was Pol Pot that assigned you to the Ministry of Foreign Affairs?
Response: I still am ambivalent as to why the search for the truth people came to me and when and how this thing was set up. I remember that I gave interviews to the co-investigating judges, but not to this.
All right, just so we're clear, and the trial chamber is vividly clear on this point. When the prosecution was asking you questions about events that happened 37 years ago, you were able to tell us with specificity when a meeting took place, who attended. But you cannot tell us here today, under oath, of an interview that you gave less than 2 years ago. Is that what you wish the trial chamber to believe, sir?
Response: I may say time and again that I do not recollect such interview with Danny, and indeed I just tell the court the truth, what I saw. But I now, in my feeling, I feel that I never met people from the Search for the Truth magazine, and I did not know how this document could be made. And if this document were my interview, I perhaps cannot contest, and then it can be used as a court document.
Well, the reason we're using it as a court document because it has been admitted, sir. And so is it possible that you said that it was Pol Pot that assigned you to the Ministry of Foreign Affairs? Did you say that, sir? And is that what happened? Was it Pol Pot that assigned you there?
Response: Since it is the court document and that's my statement, I will stand by the statement. The President: Witness, I think for the sake of clarity, and perhaps there was a misunderstanding, if you look at this document, the footnotes or the bottom of the page, you may see that the transcript or the text was copied or transcribed from the audio recording. And this document is not similar like the documents or the records of the interview you made before the co-investigating judges on those two occasions. because on those documents in 2007 and 2008, you gave some print to all pages of the document, but not this one. And Long Dani was the one who took record of the recording of this document from DC camp. My question is to you to seek a clarification whether you met anyone and gave such interview to a person in 2010, in October 2010, because you mentioned about the conversation with an individual when you mentioned about the mock funeral. This document is not in the same form as the previous documents before the ECCC. So could you tell the court whether you remember having given any other interview to other individual concerning the Khmer Rouge regime? And that question number one. Number two, if you do not remember what being said or written in that document, and you remember or be able to respond to questions by counsel, you may respond to counsel accordingly. The document is here only to assist you, and it has already been admitted and placed on the case file. Do you understand this, Mr. Rojampton? Response. Mr. President, yes, indeed I do. The President, co-prosecutor, you may now proceed.
Yes, just briefly, Mr. President. There may be a discrepancy in the dates between the English and the Khmer, too. I'm told that the date in the Khmer version may be October. The date indicated in the English version is December, so perhaps that's something as well that should be clarified with the witness.
That's my understanding, too. I was just passed a note saying that it was 19 October. The date of the interview would have been 19 October 2010. Does that help you? Does that help refresh your recollection?
Response, yes, it helps refresh my recollection.
And just a couple of matters just to make sure that we have the right Chiam here. Are you familiar with this village, Dong Village, Malay Commune, Malay District, Bataminche Province?
Response, yes.
And if we look on the very first page, which is Khmer 0066080, the very first page of this interview, French 00754244, in English 0066061, it says that you acknowledge being the deputy provincial governor from 1997 until 2005. Is that correct? Did you hold that position in that area?
Response, yes.
All right, now that we clarified that, is it not a fact that you said that Pol Pot assigned you to the Ministry of Foreign Affairs?
Response. I agree with the statement that I once made.
Okay, does that mean that you agree that it was Pol Pot that assigned you to the Ministry of Foreign Affairs?
Response. Yes.
Thank you. Now, you do know a So Hong, do you not?
Response. Yes, I do.
And as I understand it, you have been following these proceedings, have you not?
Response. No.
You were not here in the gallery when opening statements were given by the prosecution? And this would have been, I believe, Monday, November 21, 2011. Were you not in the gallery, sir?
Response. In November 2011, I was in the public gallery observing the proceedings. I did not join directly in this courtroom. I was observing the proceedings for one day before I left.
And have you observed by any chance or had a chance to speak with So Hong concerning his public testimony?
Response. Yes.
When you say yes, you mean yes, you did speak to So Hong about So Hong's testimony here in court. That is, the questions that were posed to him and the answers that he provided.
Response. No, I have not.
Have you completed your answer, sir?
Response. I have already completed.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. Now, would it surprise you if I were to tell you that when So Hong was here testifying, he had indicated that when you were working at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, when it came to security matters, you were under the supervision of Pong.
Response. In reality, I was at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs under the supervision of Ieng Sari and So Hong, not under Pang's supervision.
All right. Well, let me just read what he says after a lengthy passage of some questions, and this would be found on Khmer 00804560, English 00804560. 6504, and in French it's 00806388 to 89. This is from the testimony on the 30th of April 2012. I'm reading, it's page 17 in English, and it's approximately at line 18. The question starts a little bit further up, but then I get to the thrust of my question, which is, and now my question is, while Comrade Chiam was at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, although he was your subordinate, was his superior still Pong, at least when it came to security matters? Answer: Pong was still his superior. This was So Hong's testimony under oath. Would you like to comment on that? Is he mistaken or is he lying?
Response: perhaps he have been mistaken. As I already indicated, I was never under his supervision.
All right. Now, you were, however, under So Hong's supervision, were you not? Superior.
Response: yes, my immediate superior was So Hong.
Now, we're going to get to that perhaps tomorrow in great detail. But for now, let me ask you this question. In the statements that you have provided before, under not a single statement have you indicated that you ever worked for the security apparatus within the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. Is that a correct statement?
Response: no, it isn't. I did not work in security section.
And if So Hong were to say that, in fact, you did, and if others were to say from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs that you did, would they be mistaken? Or is it perhaps you are providing us with false testimony? Which of the two?
The President, witness, could you please hold on? Wait until we hear from the International Co-Prosecutor. International Co-Prosecutor, you may now proceed.
Yes, Mr. President. We object to the form of this question, asking this witness to speculate on whether other people were mistaken or lying or that. It's an entirely inappropriate question. Counsel is perfectly entitled to ask the witness whether there was a security section or not, to ask him the factual matter, but he should not be putting questions to the witness that ask him to comment on whether other witnesses were telling the truth or not.
Mr. President, if I may briefly respond, those other people are either mistaken or lying. That's one possibility. Or the other possibility is this gentleman is lying when he says he was not part of security. That's the universe of choices. And that's what I'm trying to get this gentleman. I'm trying to pin him down under oath.
Mr. President, the objection and the reason behind this argument are appropriate. The objection is therefore sustained. Witness is now instructed not to respond to the question just now put by counsel for Mr. Ieng Sari. And secondly, counsel is advised to be mindful with your wordings when putting questions to the witness. Please try to refrain from using some terms that are intimidating, for example, by way of pinning down witness to suggest that he's making false testimony or lying. These wordings are really belittling the dignity of the witness.
Thank you, Mr. President. So just that we're clear, under oath right now, you're saying that under no circumstances while you were working with the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, you were either in charge of or part of the security apparatus. That is your testimony under oath.
Response. With regard to security section, I already stated that I did not engage in security matters. I was engaged in administration. Whether other people said so or implicated me in their testimonies, I have nothing to say, but I was telling all the truth.
All right. Well, let me ask you this then. Since you were at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and you were in administration, can you please tell us who was in charge of security matters at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs?
Response. As stated, with regard to security matters, it was Ieng Sari who was overly in charge, who supposed to know this, and I was not assigned any security-related task. And I don't remember having been assigned such a task before because I only was engaged in administration.
And so Hong never tasked you or supervised you on security matters. Is that your testimony under oath?
Response. No, he has not assigned me on any security task.
Okay. And that is never ever assigned you to any security tasks. I just want to be very, very clear that that is your position.
Response. No, never.
All right. We'll get back to that at some point. But let me ask you, now that you've acknowledged being appointed to the Ministry of Foreign Affairs by Pol Pot, it would appear from your statement, your first statement, that you also had a special relationship with Pol Pot when it came to the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. Would that be correct?
Response. I already stated that I only met him when I was called to meet him. But on a regular basis, I would meet with Om Ieng Sari and Sao Hong.
Well, let's look at what you said, and we'll discuss this a little bit. And I'm referring to your first statement, and this is E3/24 at Khmer 00204070-71, English 00223583, and French 00503922-24. And I'm looking at an English version at the lower part of page 6. When Pol Pot wanted to know the situation at B1, he called me and asked me. He trusted me. Whatever he instructed I could do, especially work related to the reception of visitors and setting up the house. He praised me for making good arrangements. Now, let me ask you this. How was it that Pol Pot called you? Did he summon you by messenger? Did he send you a letter? Or did he call you on the landline?
Response. Whenever he wanted to see me, he did not use any phone or any letter. In fact, when I came to see Om Ieng Sari, his desk was not that far. So then he asked the people working nearby him to call me to meet him. So when somebody came to call me to see him, I simply went along to see him.
All right, let me get this straight because I don't see anything about Ieng Sari involved here. You said when Pol Pot wanted to know the situation in B1, he called me and asked me. So my question is, based on your words, how did Pol Pot call you to find out what is happening in B1?
The President, Mr. Witness, please wait. The prosecution, you may proceed.
Mr. President, we'd object. This question was just asked and answered by the witness. Mr. Carnivus may not like the answer, but the witness indicated how it was that he would come into contact with Pol Pot in these situations. So I think the question is improper.
If I may respond, Your Honor, there's nothing in the statement here, either in this version or the one that was transcribed, that mentions anything about Pol Pot being with Ieng Sari and them being together. I'm using the exact words of this witness, and I'm asking the witness to give me a concrete answer. How was it that Pol Pot called him? Did he use a landline? Did he send a messenger? Because yesterday, the gentleman under oath said that it was Ieng Sari that appointed him. Today, under oath, he acknowledged that it was Pol Pot. And this is why I'm asking this question. He acknowledged to having a special relationship. So I'm entitled to know, how was it that Pol Pot called him?
The President, Mr. Witness, you do not need to respond to that question. You already answered it. So there is no need to answer repetitive questions, or we might have too many responses which might lead to contradiction and a waste of time.
Thank you, Mr. President. Although contradictions demonstrate the weight to be given to a witness's testimony, that's the whole purpose of examination. When you did meet with Pol Pot, can you please tell us how long did these meetings last?
It did not last that long, maybe 15 to 20 minutes.
And did you meet him in his office or at some other location? I'm told we weren't translated in French, so I'll slow down. Where did you meet him? In his office or somewhere else?
I mainly met him in the evening after dinner.
Now,
usually I met him at the dining hall. It was a common dining hall.
And this is where you would meet Pol Pot, at the dining hall.
Yes, that is correct.
And could you please tell us where that dining hall was located and how you would get there?
The common dining hall at the cavern, it was under the long house. Usually when I left the ministry, I would ride my motorbike to meet Ieng Sary. And then if Pol Pot would like to meet me or to meet Ieng Sary, then Pol Pot would send a messenger to call him to meet with him.
And how often did you meet with Pol Pot?
It was not that often. It was on an occasional basis.
All right, let me switch to another topic since we don't have that much time this evening. You indicated that you did not know where S-21 was, correct? Is that your testimony?
but
Response: yes, that is correct. I did not know where S-21 was.
And in fact, you were asked yesterday about Duyk's comment, and that you had indicated that you never knew of S-21. Whatever he wants to say, that's his affairs. That's what you were quoted of saying, and this can be found on your second statement, E3/63, on Khmer version 00228845, English 00231410, and French 00376055-56. Now, are we to understand that you never ever met with Doik?
Response: that is correct. I did not meet him at all at the time.
All right. So when he says, so I take it you are asserting that Doik is not being accurate or truthful when he claims that he saw you.
The President witness, please wait until the chamber hears the objection by the prosecution, the international co-prosecutor. You may proceed.
Yeah, Mr. President, our objection is I believe that misstates Doik's testimony. I do not believe he said he saw the witness, but if counsel wishes to refer him to specific part of Doik's testimony, I think that would be appropriate, but my recollection of Doik's testimony is somewhat different than that.
I'll rephrase, Mr. President. If we look at E3/60 at Khmer 00195598, English 00195606, and French 00195616. And this is from a written record of an interview of Doik. This is the 3rd of June, 2008. And here it says, as for the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, there was a messenger who brought the prisoners to S21 named Chiem, who was roughly my age. So this is the part that you dispute. You're claiming that Doik is either mistaken or providing false testimony. Is that your position, sir?
I already stated that I never met Doik in person. Maybe Ieng Sary knew Doik well, and maybe Ieng Sary introduced me to Doik. Yesterday, I already stated that I took some people through the 870 group, and I did not know where that 870 group would take them through further.
All right, but here, Doik is saying, sir, that you, Chiem, a messenger for the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, brought the prisoners to S21, not to 870, not to some house, not to some hotel, but to S21. This is what Doik is saying. So is Doik providing false information to the investigative judges when he's saying this?
The President witness wait until the chamber hears the objection by the prosecution. The prosecution, you proceed.
We have no objection to counsel asking the witness whether that is correct or incorrect, but I think it's inappropriate for him to comment on the state of mind of Doik in terms of whether he was lying, whether he was mistaken, or the nature of the information. He should simply ask the witness whether that is correct or incorrect, and not ask him to comment on Doik's testimony.
Well, you may recall, Your Honor, that Doik, first of all, was under oath when he gave the statement. Second of all, when he was confronted here in court, he stood by, under oath, to the statements that he made. So either Doik was mistaken or he was providing false testimony under oath. Or the gentleman there perhaps is not being truthful today. These are the possibilities. And I'm entitled to press the gentleman.
The witness, please wait. The President, the objection and the ground for its objection raised by the prosecution is substantiated and sustained. The question which would elicit the assumption or subjective conclusion is inappropriate in this proceeding. The witness, you do not need to respond to the last questions put to you by the counsel.
We have a confession, IS 5.10, Khmer 000228816, English 00662311. We don't have the French version. This is on Annex 10 of the S21 confessions of the prosecution's document, Rule 83D, document list. And in this confession, on page 2, that's Khmer 0002285.
The President counsel, please wait until we hear the objection by the prosecution. The prosecution, please proceed.
It sounds to me, Mr. President, as if Mr. Carnivus is about to attempt to introduce the content of a confession. The defense has spent a lot of time objecting to the use of S21 confessions, and so I'm rather surprised that Mr. Carnivus is now attempting to introduce the content of a confession. So before he proceeds, I suggest that he clarify whether that is what he's trying to do and what the legal basis would be.
Well, it seems that the prosecution wants to have it both ways. When it suits them, they use confessions. When it suits us, especially to contradict a witness, we cannot. The information that I'm about to put into evidence is not about somebody being a CIA agent or KGB or someone being tortured. It has to do with this witness, this confession, saying that that person brought them to S21. That's what this is all about. And it completely contradicts what the gentleman indicates and supports what Doik is saying. And I think this is proper. And we should have a fast and a hard rule, either nothing from confessions. And at one point, may I remind the trial chamber that even Judge Laverne corrected us and showed us as to the date when Pong ended up at S21. So confessions have been used. So either we don't use them at all, and that goes to all parties and the bench, or we have some sort of a rule that makes sense and is fair to both sides. So I'm entitled to put this to the witness and to get an answer. Did he take this person to S21 as the confession states?
The President, the prosecution, you may reply.
Well, Mr. Carnivus's characterization of the use of confessions that we have made is entirely inaccurate. We have used confessions for annotations that were not by the detainee. We have used confessions under the exception allowed by the convention, which is to show that a person was in fact at S21 on a certain date. But we have not attempted to use the content of the confessions, that is, the statements made by the person being interrogated. So I think that this is entirely inappropriate. His argument that it's either all or nothing ignores the legitimate uses of confessions. So I would disagree with his position. And I think his attempt to read that before the chamber in his statement here is entirely outside the rules of this court.
The confession is rather clear that on 12/27/78, the person providing this confession is noting how that person got to S21. And that's why we believe it's pertinent, and it contradicts this gentleman's testimony that he's given.
The President, designated Judge Laverne to clarify the matter with the counsel, Michael Canavas, and then we will rule on the objection raised by the prosecution to the last question put to the witness. In regards to the confession obtained through torture, Judge Laverne, you may proceed.
Monsieur le Président. Yes, thank you, Mr. President. I have just a request for clarification from Council Carnavas, because, of course, being questioned is something that's not that common, so I do not believe that it's useful to just have unclarified allegations. The defense indicated that it had used the content of, that I had used the content of confessions regarding Pong's arrest. So I would like to know if Council Carnavas has specific references to substantiate this. But as far as I remember, I don't remember referring to the content of a confession.
I don't have it at this moment. I can find it. It'll be 1 second. I know exactly how it was used because I objected to that at some point. It had to do with you're trying to assist the witness as to the exact date when Pong entered S21. And you intervened while the witness was being questioned to point out that based on the S21 records of a confession, Pong had entered in 78. I will find the reference because I can assure you that I'm not making any false accusations towards you. I have it. In fact, it's here someplace, but I'll find it very shortly.
Met Carnavas.
Counsel, are you referring to the S21 lists or to the confessions? Because referring to the prisoner lists is one thing, but referring to the content of confessions is something else. So I believe that it would be a good idea to avoid mixing up both sources. Lists can be used that contain, of course, indications such as entry dates as well as execution dates. That's one thing, but the content of confessions is something else. So I would like to be sure that we're speaking about the same thing. On the one hand, you're speaking about confessions, and I believe that I was speaking about lists.
Well, I'll look into it, and I could be that I'm in error, that it was because it was in reference to an S21 that you might have pointed out as to when the individual went in, as opposed to looking at the confession itself and the date. So I could be mistaken. But be that as it may, we insist that where the person giving the confession is merely indicating how they arrived there should be admitted, at least in this very narrow instance where it contradicts the witness's testimony under oath. And if the answer is that it can't be used, then fine, then we'll limit ourselves to only the list, the numbers on the list, and nothing more. But we need a clear answer as to what we can and cannot use. Because it seems that whenever the defense wants to use something, it's forbidden. When the prosecution wants to use it, it's allowed. And that's the frustration that we tend to feel on this side. Because here we are trying to confront the witness under oath with what we believe is evidence that demonstrates the quality of his testimony or the lack of.
The President, the prosecution, I think you already expressed your objections, and I believe there is no need for us to just take the opportunity to be on the feet.
To answer Judge Laverne's question, we try to get it right. We're not trying to make any false accusations here. This is on E1/70.1. I have the English version. It's ER number 00806528. The date is 30th of April, 2012. And it says here, Judge Laverne, line 15, "Thank you, Mr. President. I'm sorry for interrupting the flow of the questioning from Counselor Carnavas, but I would like to draw the party's attention to the fact that on the 24th of April last, the prosecution put before the Chamber a document, IS 5.14. This document is submitted as being Pong's statement, confession rather, and as regards to the dates that are mentioned, it appears that the first date on which Pong's confession was reported is the 28th of May, 1978. And the last date that is available on the document, of which we do have the French and English translations, is the 22nd of July, 1978. I think this is important because several times the witness said that Pong's arrest might have taken place in the days before the arrival of the Vietnamese in Phnom Penh, in other words, the end of 1978. So I do believe that there is a contradiction, and we do have some evidence that we can draw upon in elucidating this. Thank you. So that was, and I apologize if I got it wrong, but this is what I have, Judge Laverne, and I mean no disrespect by making reference to this.
No. Well, of course, we might agree on the fact that these are annotations indicating the dates of the confessions. But, however, can we consider that these annotations refer to the content of the confessions?
Well,
I believe that there's a difference between an annotation that specifies the date when a prisoner was interrogated under torture and the content of the confession.
I think we're in total agreement on that. I don't disagree. And I was merely reading what's in the record, and from the record, Your Honor, I was using that as a basis for answering the response. Now, it's up to you to rule.
Counsel, what is the distinction between a judge referring to the content of a confession or reference to dates that are entirely different from the substance of a confession?
Well, there is a difference, but from what I'm reading here, and perhaps I should have gone and checked to see exactly what was being referenced, but there's nothing in the text here that notes that it was that this was in relation to an annotation. So obviously, it is my error to have assumed that you were actually looking into the document itself. But I'm reading what it says here, that you're pointing out a particular date, and it seems that we are using confessions. If we can only use annotations, then we should have a rule that only annotations provided by others than those who are providing the confession can be admitted. I understand the nuance. Where's that?
The President, in order to clarify things, and we still remember that from the very beginning of the trial proceedings, we are abided by the International Convention on against the use of confessions that extracted by means of torture. And the Chamber has maintained its position firmly that it shall always follow this convention. And during these proceedings, the Chamber shall not allow parties to refer to the content of any of the confessions that was extracted by torture. Because the content of the confessions were somehow the result of tortures. And if parties wishes to refer to other annotations or the dates on the confessions, parties are allowed to do so.
Mr. President, I see we're past 4 o'clock.
The President, indeed, it is now appropriate time for the adjournment. The Chamber will adjourn now, and the next session will be resumed by tomorrow at 9 a.m. During tomorrow's sessions, the hearing will commence with the questions to be posed by counsel for Mr. Ieng Sari to the witness. Mr. Rochampton, the Chamber still needs your testimony, so please come back to the courtroom tomorrow. Please be here before 9 a.m. Jury counsel is also advised to come back to the courtroom at that same time. Court officer is now instructed to ensure that witness is well accommodated and taken care of during the adjournment. Security personnel are now instructed to bring all the accused persons to the detention facility and have them returned to the courtroom by 9 a.m. The court is adjourned.